where have you come from?
Newton.
All right, not too far away.
No, about half hour.
Right. So you're in 1925 now, and I'll introduce myself. My name is Matthew Robinson Newton. I'm the station master, but you may call me Sir because I'm a pillar of the local community. I said pillar. Okay. So do you know much about this railway? No. Have you heard of George Hudson, the Railway King?
No.
Well, he was a very wealthy man. He started off at Topcliffe Hall, and he was Mayor of York. He was an MP for Sunderland. He invested in a lot of railway companies, a lot of which were a bit dodgy, and this was one of them. So it was supposed to run from Northallerton to Bedale in the first instance, but when it got here in 1848, it was going bankrupt, and this was the end of the line for another 7 years. North Eastern Railway bought it, then the railway was extended to Leyburn, and then finally to Hawes in 1878. And the North Eastern Railway only extended to Hawes to stop the Midland Railway coming any further because they came into Hawes that end. So we had the full line at 2 railway companies operating it. And you always travel down from the origin. So the origin for the North Eastern Railway is Northallerton, but for the Midland Railway it's Hawes Junction. So if you got on the train at Northallerton, going down the line, although most of the time you're going uphill, till you get to Hawes when you're going uphill, but you're going up the line. So if you turn around, you're going downhill down the line till you get to Hawes when you're going downhill up the line. Okay? Simple, isn't it? Midland section was used to carry sandstone from Hawes into Lancashire to build the mill towns. Well, that died out in about 1900. So, 1925, does anybody know what this road out here would be?
Do you know?
A quarry or something.
A quarry.
Yeah?
No, it was quite an important road. It's great and it goes north. This was the Great North Road at the time, A1. Maybe in the A1, but when the farmer down the road had the delivery of cows, he would shut the level crossing gates to make them go that way on the A1. Anyway, so because that's the A1, that's why we've got the portico to make the station look important. And therefore station master must be very important, mustn't he? So those are the railway cottages where workers live. The one that's end on used to be the toll house, where the toll bar was, hence leaving bar. Okay? In this village there was 3 businesses that grew up because of the railway. Over there, I don't know if you can imagine a big brick building over there in that quadrant, but that's Plu's Brewery, and they were a big brewer, and they built that in 1868 because of the railway. They brought barley in by rail, and there's 300 casks of beer going out a week by rail. But in 1925, things aren't going so well in the country, never known that before, they've been bought out by a company called Cameron's, brewer from Hartlepool. And you'll know about monkeys at Hartlepool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't need to tell you. It's amazing how many people know about that. From down south as well. Anyway, they're going to buy it out and close it down. But we have a pie maker who wants to put an abattoir in, bring pigs in by rail, and pot pies and bacon out by rail, and they're going to trade under the name Vale of Mowbray. And you might think they're pinching somebody else's name, like Milton Mowbray, but they're not, because this area was named after a fellow called Robert de Mowbray, who was one of William the Conqueror's men.
It's the ticket office. Well, it's not actually. It was the general waiting room, so that's why it's got a big door off the platform. And you wouldn't have come in there, you'd have come in this door. This, we've made this, but one of these screens would have been through that wall into where the staff member was in the parcels office, and then you bought your ticket there. And then round the edge of there will be like just a wooden bench right the way round with a fire at the end. And then the most important thing in this general waiting room is the station clock, which is two-faced. There's a face on the platform and one inside for passengers waiting in the general waiting room. And we could say it's two-faced, just like the station master. But it's been restored, and do you know how these trains work? This clock works? Because it doesn't have a battery in it.
Steam?
Steam. What did they do at Beamish?
What do you think makes this clock go tick-tock? Can you hear it?
Clock power.
Well, yeah, you're a bit right, because you get clockwork trains, don't you? And what do you do with a clockwork train? You
Wound it up.
wind it up, and that's exactly what you do. There's little holes up there. I won't open it because apparently this is getting a bit weaker. There's a hole up there, and this kid goes in there. And you open the front, and there's a pendulum swinging back and forth. And then there's also a weight, and the weight works its way down. And every 3 days, well, it's usually on a Monday and a Friday, the station master winds the clock, and he winds it with a key, and the weight gets lifted up to the top, and it's just like winding a clockwork train, and then it will gradually work its way down through the week. So that's the clock. And do you know about railway time?
A bit.
Have you heard of railway time? Well, when trains first happened, people didn't really travel very far before that. They stayed locally where they were, and they got up when it got light, and they went to bed when it got dark, and that was it. And they didn't venture very far. Well, of course, with the trains happening, then they could move about the country more. Now, the difficulty with that is the time difference in the west to the east is quite considerable. So the Great Western Railway found that their trains were like 15 minutes, I think it's either behind or there was a 15-minute difference anyway between the West Country and London because of the time difference. So Eisenbach Kingdom Brunel put pressure on his mates in Parliament to standardise the time. So until that happened, the West Country had something called local time, and their station clock had 2 minute hands. It had the black one, and it also had another one called local time that was their local time to Bristol or whatever, until Parliament went through the Acts and did the standardisation of time, which became Greenwich Mean Time. Down in London, at Greenwich Mean, they would have had a bit like general waiting room. So in those days, they didn't. They had to provide a ladies' waiting room. Where you come from? Newton Aycliffe. So your seaside place was.
People we're talking about. My name is Elizabeth Newton, and I was resident in this building with my husband, Matthew Robinson Newton, the station master whom you've already met, from June 1920 to 1929. So I'll give you a very quick rundown of the family, if you like, and then I'll tell you about the 2 rooms that we're going to visit. So first of all, my husband was born in 1866 in Allendale, Northumberland. He was the youngest of 5 children, and his father and his brother Isaac worked in the local lead mine. But Matthew wasn't interested in the lead mine, so when he left school, he went to work on the railway in Allendale. And then when he was 24, the family bought a farm because the work in the lead mine had got very hard for his father, who was 47 at that stage, and the family ran the farm together. And then Matthew got the opportunity of a promotion in the railway, which he took up, but it meant him moving to Tynemouth. So he moved to Tynemouth, and he lived in this flat in Tynemouth, here, number 10 Middle Street. And that's where he was living when I met him. Are you taking a picture of it, darling, are you? Now, I don't know what these things are. You'll know about these, because of course I'm 1925, and we didn't have these things in 1925. So what about me? Well, I'm different from my husband. I was born 2 years later, 1868. in Chesterley Street, County Durham. My father Henry was the local tailor, and my name was Waggett, Elizabeth Waggett. And in the next 20 years, my mother and father produced another 8 children. So I had 5 brothers and 3 sisters and myself, so there were 9 of us. And when I was 24 and the youngest one, John, was just 4, our mother died, age 47. So it became my role to help to bring up these young siblings. So that's why Matthew and I didn't marry until later in life. Now, Matthew was living in this flat when I met him. He was working at Tynemouth, between Tynemouth as a clerk and between Newcastle Station as a parcels clerk. We did a little courting, and then he asked for my hand in marriage, and we were married at Chesterley Street, Wensleydale Chapel in 1898 by the Reverend Joseph Black. And I immediately moved to this flat with him. Now Matthew's 32 and I'm 30. We wanted to start a family. We realised this flat wasn't suitable. So Matthew went out very quickly after our marriage and got us a very nice house. And here it is, number 12 Blenkley Avenue. And it's on a tree-lined avenue with the railway just over the wall. We had a nice garden at the front, a hanging space at the back. Now these are what are known as Tyneside flats, and I'm sure you know what Tyneside flats are. It's a whole house on the bottom, a whole house on the top, 2 doors together, one leading to down and one leading to up. So you've got your own entrance. And we moved in there in 1900. And very shortly after that, I gave birth to our first child, which was a boy, and we called him William Henry. I'll turn it over across the sum at the back, and look what you'd be wearing in the 1920s. What do you think to that? Knickerbockers and long socks and a flat hat. Now you'll